really good work, leadership work at the Capitol, working on the restoration of voting rights for ex-offenders. And he's appeared on television a couple of times, or 2 or 3 different times. We love that, man. Give him a little hand. And his leadership ability is always coming forward. And so, but now what we got an opportunity here that he wants to discuss with us. You know, now they opened up a little history museum, African American History Museum, the first one ever in Minneapolis, and it's in the Thorpe building on Plymouth and Penn. It's a real nice building, and so I'll let you pick it up from there.
It's like he said, it's
Speak up real loud, son.
It's called the Minnesota African American Heritage Museum. And I do outreach there. And I was speaking to the owner about what happened at the Capitol with the Restore the Vote thing. And she asked me, did we want to host a panel discussion at the museum? For a couple of reasons, because, you know, she's been trying to make that connection with you anyway.
Okay.
But she thinks it'll be a good opportunity to, one, get you guys to get the pop crew there to the museum, but then also shed light on that issue anyway. And so the 2 dates, excuse me, that she proposed were April 25th. That's a Thursday, from like 5:30 to 7:30, or May 2nd, same time, both Thursdays. I told her I'd bounce an hour and then pass you guys to see what,
So 2 things I think we should be thinking about. First of all, that's a good invite. Thank you for it. Second of all, though, what do you think we should use that time to do? Should we have a discussion where we're inviting other people? Is it just a discussion amongst ourselves? I'm asking everybody this question. And or does it make sense to have a forum where we invite, say, like, make it like a press conference or something? I'm just throwing stuff out there.
well, we were, once we got the time and the date locked,
April 24th is a Wednesday, by the way.
April 25th,
April 25th is a Thursday, and what was the next month?
the 2nd.
May 2nd.
May
The
2nd.
second. That is a Thursday as well. Okay.
So, I mean, she was thinking more like a panel discussion. For some reason, she wanted you to speak about it. And, you know, we're the ones that's really affected by it. And it's going to be like open to the public. And she's going to post it like publicly on Facebook. And she asked me who I had in mind to narrate it. And I was thinking of either that BBC lady that interviewed me.
Yeah, what's her name? Joe. She worked over there at NPR.
Joe Erickson. Right.
Joe Erickson, yeah, I enjoyed that.
I just met with her Golden Times last week.
Okay, she's doing good?
Yeah, she's doing good. Or the Cedric guy.
Cedric would be great.
Fraser.
Cedric Fraser would be great. City Councilman, New Hope.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to bounce that off of you guys.
Well, I'd love to attend. I'd love to see the music.
And what does other people think about that?
What time? Seems like the dates are Thursdays, so what are the times?
From 5:30 to 7:30.
Oh, yeah.
So most of you guys are off of work.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, every man in Minnesota who's currently a felon, that man and woman is eliminated from voter participation. You know, so it's a big thing. And I think we do well to get, you know, some diversity, you know, involved, because it affects everybody. Now, at the same time, I think you all should be the panel. Somebody from the group be the panel. You know, you're the one that, you know, you don't have your voting rights and you want it. You know, it requires, I think, a little research. We should maybe do a little research. And I'm going to ask Wayne to look up the history of voting rights, just so that we have an understanding of what is the history. You know, I mean, I don't know if you know that even women couldn't vote, period, until I believe 1922. I want to say 24. 24? Okay. I won't argue that, but it was in the early 1900s that even, you know, women couldn't vote. So this is a big thing. It's got a lot of history to it because the vote is so important. I think something else that's critical is kind of what our president is currently doing to be divisive in his trying to cover his voting base in the budget, in the 2020 budget. It's very interesting. This whole notion of the wall, you know, which
We all know that's not really what's going on.
you know, I mean, this diversion, this $8 billion diversion of the wall is kind of an amazing thing that's taking place. I don't know if you completely understand.
I think that.
Go ahead.
I think it'd be important for the people taking part in the panel. The moderator should be somebody who's impacted. I think that it should be, you know, somebody who also is directly impacted and can vote as well. You know, for somebody who still has name draw. You know, like Richard McLemore or somebody like that. I'm just throwing something out there that, you know, I think that, you know, it'd be good if we really stomp hard into the space of like speaking for ourselves and like moderating these events ourselves and like for instance at the press conference that we had, you know, we had senators, we had county attorneys, both of them, Hennepin and Ramsey. You know, we had mayors of cities. We had all of these great names
Who were supporters.
and they're all supporters, and we appreciate that. But we only had one person besides me, two if you count me, but like because I'm like one of the people organizing. There's a different deal, especially if you constantly see my face and it kind of like eliminates the strength of it.
Right.
So we only really had like one person, and that was Tierra. We only had him at all.
Wow.
You know, in terms of the impacted people, and it's just even when they testified, he was the only one. It's just him. Everybody else that was speaking in support of the bill, and we appreciate it, but they could all vote.
Right.
Every last single one of them could
Right.
vote. And so I think that we really got to start stomping hard into this space of taking control over these microphones and like speaking for ourselves as well.
Oh, good. Hey, Terrence, I think you'd be good. You'd be a good spokesperson for the panel.
I think so too.
Yeah,
And,
we want to talk about
you know, get really going.
because it's legal.
And that would be good. You know who I think is we ought to reach out to a couple of sisters. Hey, brother, how you doing? We ought to reach out to a couple of sisters who are impacted and who have that, you know, powerful female perspective. You know what I mean? And put that on, hey, Will, put that in there. For me, I think, let's see, the between April and what's the other date?
April 25th or May 2nd.
Yeah, I think. Let's go with May 2nd.
I think so, so I got a schedule conflict.
May 25th. Let's go with May 2nd, 5:30. Let's just say we're arriving at 5:30. It starts at 6 to 7:30, right?
I just wanted to lock the date down.
Yeah, let's go with that.
I wouldn't do that without.
Yeah, absolutely. Give Tia another little piece of that.
Also, one more thing.
Go ahead, come on in. Hey, come on, boy.
It's a lot of Black history. Like the museum is all Minnesota Black history, things that y'all would never, nobody's gonna show you. Nobody's gonna ever teach you about. So it's also a nice venue to learn about Black Minnesota history here too.
Yeah, and aren't you doing something on Saturdays, or what are you doing?
I'm there on Saturday.
Every Saturday?
Pretty much.
So you're teaching like a kids, you're doing some.
Hey, if I got the boys with me, I got the boys every other Saturday. And they got like a little story time thing where Black authors come in. Artika Turner come in there, she reads to the kids.
Great.
Oh, yeah. The local author, mayor was just there last Saturday.
Reading the story? Oh, that's great.
Just any story?
Like children's stories.
ABC Rondo's stories, like some Rondo's.
Oh, okay.
Read stories, give them candy,
Right.
color.
Right. That's good, man. Well, I love it. So, couple things. Okay, well, let's just go with the May 2nd, and then we're gonna do some research. Hey, Rick, we're gonna do some research on the whole idea of voting rights and its history, just so that we're speaking intelligently about the broad subject, and then we can narrow it down to how it impacts you and how it impacts others. You get it? So let's go with the 2nd, and we'll do some flyers and give you all the information, several times between now and then, so that we're all on the same page.
And Pop, I can email you too. We have a lot of talking points, just for Restore the Boat, as well as the history of it. I can give you the one pager and everything for that.
I'll take the one pager. Give her a hand for the one pager. All right. Come on, Sweet, which way did your way from? Get your hair all pretty and everything. Look at here, man, it's raining out there, and it's all kind of stuff is going on. Actually, I'm welcoming the rain myself. Anything but the snow. Come on. Another thing that we got, excuse me, hey young man. Another thing that we got going on good is we got one of our new pop guys just made it home yesterday. Brother Geronimo Estrada right over here. Give him everybody say Pop Guy on 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Pop Guy is back. We're so glad to have him. I think I had him for a couple years in Faribault, and then 2 or 3 years in Rush City. And so pass the cake down to him. Doug, this is your cake. We give everybody a welcome home cake and ice cream. You got the ice cream too? Hey, Marvin.
Ice cream's in the freezer, Calvin.
Why don't you get it?
Oh, he said it. I'll get it.
And so, go ahead, son. We want to let you talk a little bit and just tell us how you feeling. What does it feel like? What's going on in your mind?
Can't use the phone.
I feel anxious. I feel really anxious right now. And, I'm out of my norm, out of my
Institutional norm.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Everybody on 3 say, how anxious are you? 1, 2, 3.
How anxious are you?
Go ahead.
I was so anxious that I was standing outside with Mike Fox yesterday, And I was out there for 10 minutes and I said, yeah, I think I gotta go back in the house.
Right. Wow.
That's how I felt.
I ain't encouraged him to do nothing. So don't you get that out there.
You know what, I want to thank you for, assisting him.
Yeah.
And, that's the good news about it. But I think it's important for him to mention, this anxiousness, and does anybody ever had any experience with that? You want to give him some feedback on it?
Yeah, I did, man. I did almost 24 years. So I was anxious, but I had to keep talking to myself. I had to keep talking to myself and telling myself that, this is a part of the process. It was a part of the process going in. Unfortunate part of the process, when you do dirt, you gotta expect something to happen. So it was part of the process going in, and you got used to that. You out now. You'll get used to it. It's just part of the process. Just take your time. You know what I mean? Think about all of the things that, if you don't know exactly what you are going to do, you better know exactly what you're not going to do.
Ooh.
That
right there.
You get that down, you know what I mean? Take your time, one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. Most important, don't let nobody else overwhelm you. Especially old family, particularly family. Old friends coming around talking about, hey man, you remember, let's do this or whatever. You ain't supposed to be involved in. Just like you was doing the guys in prison and you was telling them, oh man, I don't get down like that. Same out here.
Right,
No, man,
that's right.
don't get down like that.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So just bring some of the good habits that you gathered back there. Use them out here.
That's good feedback, bro. That's really good feedback. Go ahead.
I got one for him though. I was anxious yesterday. I was out of my element yesterday because I stayed up to 11:30 with him last night.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to bed at 7:30.
Right.
And I'm looking at the news at 9 o'clock. But I really appreciate him what he did yesterday, and it hurt me. And he, because he used the phone, he didn't know how to do it and all that stuff. I'm going through it now the same way. But when he talked to his sister, it hurted me too, to my heart.
Wow.
But I respect him more because they're offering. He said he got the knee problem, and the thing they said was, well, hey, I got these pills, and he was like, no, you know what I'm saying? And I respect you for that, because you could have snuck and say, yeah, I'll be over there, just send me a couple of them Percocets. You know what I'm saying? But he did say what he said.
Yeah.
He said, I don't want to be bothered with that.
Wow.
And he asked me questions, and he was, and I respect him. He said, look, well, I got some mail over there, but I just need to get sun here. But it was pictures that he drew up in the penitentiary and stuff like that, because he is an artist. So I said, that'd be a good idea. You know what I'm saying? You can love your family from a distance. I think he was kind of a little anxious because, people want to be around their family, but I can love my family from a distance, like yourself. And when you did that, it's going to make you more peaceful. You got to be bothered with the drama. You already said that. We all got unhealthy families because we was unhealthy one time. You know what I'm saying? So we ain't perfect.
Absolutely.
Ain't now one of us ain't perfect.
That's right.
But we got to put the thinking cap on and keep it going. Same way we hold ourselves accountable in prison, do it out here. I'm a prime example. I messed up a lot of times. You know what I did? I got back up.
That's right. That's
I ain't
right.
looking back.
Get back up. Somebody else give him some feedback, because this is really a pretty important time for him. Anybody else want to touch that?
Geronimo and I talked before the group started. When he came over early, he showed up. We started talking about that. That's one thing he mentioned, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's like, if you decide to struggle with something alone, it could be a lot more heavier. It could be a lot. It could be a bunch more to deal with versus just saying this is what it is, and somebody assists me when we walk. I too experienced it. I spent 10 years on the inside. I started when I was 17, and so when I came home, I had to learn the nuances. Not only living as an adult, but coming to a new city, Minneapolis. I was in St. Paul before then, Chicago before then, so get familiar with everything. It was a bit overwhelming. I stumbled a couple times, so I told you that. I think the key is to continue to speak, continue to talk to pop guys. That's why I give you my contact information. A lot of us have been through that. There's not one pop guy or pop sister that can tell you that they haven't been through that situation. You know, even if it is in prison, some of us haven't been in prison, but we can tell you a time when we was anxious. We can share something with you, so reach out. Also, take your time, slow down a little bit. Israel kind of hit on that, but one thing I want to stress is the other element I think of human life, period. We are creatures of habit. You know, and Israel hit on that again. He talked about how those habits you had on the inside, replace them. I remember when Elijah's my personal mentor, right? I remember when I decided to make some changes. You know, pulling up my pants, stuck it in my shirt, putting the belt on. That was so uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable to tuck my shirt in and pull my pants up and put a belt on. It was so uncomfortable, but I did it. You remember that? And when I decided to get the N-word out of my mouth as well, you know, that was a huge deal for me. You know, it was uncomfortable because it was about to slide out, you know, every time, and, you know, replaced it with the word. So that's the point I want to focus on. Replace the habits that you have on the inside with something here. You know, right now you have more opportunity. That's what coming home means. You have more opportunity to do good, to do exactly what it is that you've been wanting to do, you've been planning to do. You know, allow yourself to connect with it. The spirit has always been in you. Allow it to come forth. It's your opportunity, brother. Use it well. I'm your support. The rest of these brothers and sisters are as well.
That's good. That's good, Terrence. Being honest like that. Give him some love. That's good. Anybody else got something? Let's go ahead and serve the ice cream and cake. We're not waiting for anything. You can just go ahead and pop it off, pop that off, man. And
You can hold a knife too, it's all right. You know, we scared to die.
We got some more people here. We got some more guests here from the Star Tribune have come, and then y'all know, you know Evan back there. Evan is a pop guy. So just go ahead and cut that, and work on the ice cream or whatever we're gonna do it. But somebody else got feedback for him about just coming home like that. Anxiety.
I just want to say it's a pleasure to meet you and welcome home.
Oh, right. Yeah, there it is. That's love right there.
I just want to add on to what he said, is that every one of us are more alike than we're different. And I would like to encourage you that you can bring anything that's on your mind to any one of us and not feel judged. You know, I come to any of these guys and they all got, I can look at people outside of this and, although they're thinking whatever they want to think, but I come in here and they all understand. So please, if you got anything going on, you can't, one thing too, is you cannot do it by yourself. So we all love you and welcome home.
Yeah, that's good,
Good job, buddy.
Go ahead. Somebody else.
Well, I'm Willie. Welcome home, brothers. I was down for 24 years, and when I came home, I felt a little anxious. I think it's human nature to feel that way, but it was offset by the fact that when I was inside, I was prepared. You're a pop guy, right? So you went through all the preparation to win, right? So although you have a little reason to be anxious because you started something new, you're in transition, you got a lot more to be excited about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Welcome home, man.
Yeah, that's good. Give some love. Really good feedback. Somebody else, one more person.
I'll add something to that. Do you have a phone yet?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I know it's going to be something getting used to the apps and everything, but what I would recommend for everybody in this room, and yourself included, for anxiety, I met with some formerly incarcerated women a little while back, and I suffer from chronic anxiety. But I talked about a breathing app with them, and some of them have downloaded it, and I've gotten some feedback from them that it has really helped. Because you have moments where you're overcome with anxiety, and you can't really name it in that moment, but it helps to have something in your hand, in your moment, to do But I would definitely recommend having somebody help you find a simple, just a very simple breathing app that you can refer to when you're alone or when you're in a situation where you have that fight or flight and that anxiety is hitting you hard and you just don't understand where it's coming from. You really don't need to figure it out. You just need to have a place to go with it and relieve it. And breathing techniques, just taking deep breaths for just about 60 seconds, deep and slowly releasing that will help you find your place, you know. So I just offer you that and welcome you home.
Wow, that's really good feedback.
I was gonna say, give us an example, Pop.
I know, I was like, can we breathe right now?
Well, you know, I'm not trying to take up Pop's space, but you know.
I'm Jordan. Welcome home. I've never met you yet. The advice I give you is don't expect everything all at once. Take small steps. Work real hard to get yourself, I don't know if you got wheels or anything, but one important thing to me is just having transportation and not taking the public transportation. I think that keeps me away from all the people that I knew on the streets. I don't even go downtown or anything anymore. Yeah, just don't expect to get everything all at once. Make some goals and look at your goals often and work towards them.
That's good, Joy. Go ahead, Cal. Give Joy some
I haven't met you yet either, brother. I'm Calvin, and I've been coming back to this group because it's doing something for me. They say the more you come, the better it gets. And I've been coming from 2017. I haven't been back. So just remember, as long as you show up here, you'll be all right.
That's good. That's real good feedback. Yeah, Mike and then Rich.
Hey, Geronimo, now you know me and you did a lot of time together. I love you, boy. Hey, but just, you know, I just got in January. Just listen, take your time. Pops up, Marvin, anybody tell you something, just listen. Don't have your own agenda. Because I came out so anxious, I came 10 toes down and I messed up practically everything. I could have been working at night 2-3 weeks if I would have just waited and listened to Pops, but I was just too frank. I should have worked on my license and everything else before I started putting all these applications into these carpentry places. Now all these people calling me and everything else, and the first thing they asking me, do you have a license and everything else, and I don't have a car because I didn't listen to Pop to take that step to get my license and everything first. I was going too fast. I was going too fast, and I just got out, and so now I'm really, like Marvin said, slow down, go pick some flowers, you know, smell coffee or something, that's what I'm saying. You know, I just got on January. Just slow down, man. Just think, because I wouldn't think. I was just moving so fast. I gotta get a job, I gotta pay rent, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, whatever. And finally just don't make that mistake I did. Just, you know, be smooth.
Wow, that's good, Mike. Go ahead, give some love. Go ahead, Rick.
Man, I mean, you know, it's always nice to getting out. Staying out, that does get tough. It does get tough. It's always a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. You know, but prison teaches patience, you know what I mean? You don't have no choice but to sit down when you're there and do what you got to do, right? So coming out here, you got to have that same type of approach, but you have to, you know, you have to police, and we talk about this all the time, it's about policing yourself. You don't need someone standing over you, but that means having a plan. And I think everyone in here is saying it in their own way that, you know, really focus like on one thing at a time. And make that a goal, like getting your license, maybe taking the test first. Then you're going to take it behind the wheel. Then get in the car. Then get insurance. See what I'm saying? Like literally one thing at a time. So no, I'm serious. So like every week you're celebrating something. That's how you stay out. I'm serious. That's how you stay out, and it also keeps you going forward because you're celebrating those incremental things, but you're always making new goals for yourself. You got to do that. You got to do that. And that ties into your mental health. Don't let that lapse. And that's what I struggle with getting out. I really struggle with trying to get out and run and get things done. And I wasn't paying attention to how it was making me feel. You know, and I really burnt myself out when I first got out. You know, so it's a long race. You know, take your time and just really have a plan. You know, I think that's how you plan.
That's real good feedback. Give some love. Speaking of which, just along those those lines of taking your time, I want to take a minute to say that it was just Richard's birthday 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
And also Darius just a couple of days ago. Give him some love. Let's go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. What I think is so amazing in terms of our leadership development, we are the Power of People, Personal Development and Leadership Institute. So what we want to do is help you develop yourself first, and then take that development into the leadership realm. Many of you are already doing that, and we're so proud of you. But last weekend, we were operating as individuals now, not as POP, but we were collective as individuals. We got together as individuals to support our brother and sister, because our sister is running for the city council seat over in the 1st Ward in St. Paul. Give her a big hand. And many of us as individuals came out and supported her, and we made phone calls and we knocked doors and did all of these things. So we want Sister Anika to kind of give us a report about kind of how that all went. I'll start with the birthday man, and then let him bring Anika forward. Go ahead.
First of all, well, I'm gonna just bring Anika forward.
Go ahead, because you got your pick, right?
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say what she's gonna say, but I'll just summarize from an operational end, because I'm the deputy campaign manager, so I'll look at the statistics. So
give the deputy a big hand.
Operationally, though, it was really, really, really good. Ton of contacts. We knocked to 80-something% of our 400-person list, and so. And then we had several other phone banks, and even we did a breakout door knock, in which we specifically were signing people up who probably had never been door knocked before, and so it was really, really, really exceptional. That's just like the nuts and the bolts and the numbers, but I'll let Anika kind of speak to everything else. So it was phenomenal.
So the icing on the cake, it was very successful. Caucus was amazing. It was a process that a lot of people, it was new to. We made it a celebration. We made it fun. My mom had spaghetti, greens, chicken wings, soul food. We had a DJ. We really made it a real party.
They ain't never seen caucus like that.
And me and Eli it felt like, I don't know, an NBA draft or something. We were just going in each room, just like, presenting ourselves as our greatness, our excellence, and what we, plan, what my vision is. Offering to St. Paul and meeting the residents there. It was really great. All of the precincts that had the largest amount of residents present were like cheerleading on for Anika for St. Paul, so it really mattered. It was just wonderful having family there. My old coach, my old teachers came out and showed support. My cousins were there. Even my campaign was the most multicultural campaign. And that's just like goes to show me as a coalition builder, me as a connector of just many communities. So it was just successful, and I want to say thank you.
Give her a big hand. So, and Tierra, we already said this, but we want to bring it back up again. Come on, step in here, son. Because Tierra has been on Capitol Hill, has been advocating for the restoration of voting rights to ex-felons. He really, taking some hard questions, putting himself out there with his leadership ability. He developed himself as a person, and now he's taking that leadership skill into these other realms. Give Tierra another big round of applause. I'm very proud of him. I want to mention that I'm very proud of Tierra and of Eli and Anika for just stepping out and being, using their boldness and their imagination and creativity to make a process that seems like it's dying to bring it back alive again with some new life and new energy. That's real leadership. Give them some love.
He's also one of the board members for ACLU's Smart Justice Advisory Board.
See, look. See now, is your mom proud of you? That's good. You know, I think it's a good time to mention this. Just since we got a little grant. It's our first time we got a federal grant, right? It's the first time ever we ever had one, you know what I mean? So we've been really trepidatious about it because it's like so complicated. I almost want to say, just take it back. Because you got to do some stuff. Right? And they came to us. We didn't even know about it. You know, they came to us and said, hey, you guys should apply for this. Then we did, you know, we ended up, you know, getting it. And then, you know, it was like, I mean, all kind of stuff. No, you got to dot. No, you should do, no, you have to do this. Like, you know what? We're going to keep on doing, thank you, man. You know, go ahead, take that and go on about your so in any case, we wanted to bring on someone. That's what we are asking for. We want to bring on somebody on staff who can work specifically on employment for us and on navigation. Say navigation. Navigation. This person would be a systems navigator. Say systems navigator. Systems navigator. Say it louder than that. Systems navigator. So you understand the system. We have our operational definition of the word system. Who wants to repeat what that is? Eli, what is it?
It is a complicated
set of two or more
things.
A system is a set of two. A system is a set of
two or more.
Somebody who ain't guessing, come on. That's good. Give him a little hand. Let's say this together. A system is a set of two or more. Connected things or parts. Forming. Say it louder than that. A complex whole. Yeah, the forming part is the action. That's the verb component of that statement. Something is always forming, right? And if you don't recognize the things that you're connected to, beware of what is forming. Say it louder than that. Forming. I'm not trying to trick you. Come on now. And so this is critical. So what we talked to Tierra about, you know, maybe coming on in that role, you know what I mean? And he's been stepping out with his leadership, and so, you know, finally, finally got through the little hoops. We're going to make Tierra some kind of a small offer. It's not a big job. It's not a big grant. But we're going to make him a small job offer here so he would come on and be working with myself and Wayne and the larger group of my
that's what's up,
Just while we're talking about forming, we're going to bring him right now, but I might be bringing you next. So just keep on working and doing what you're doing and pulling yourself on through that part of it that you're at. Tierra's at one part, you're at another, but we all in this thing together. That's right. And so part of what we want to do is have Tierra working on employment, navigating employment that's germane to the second chance that we all need in here. And that navigation is so critical. I like a lot of employers, but I don't care for the ones who won't hire us. Right. And so really, I would like to just weed those out. You know what I mean? And I ain't mad, and I'm sure they wouldn't be mad at me. You know what I mean? We're not talking the same language, but to the extent that we can be about quid pro quo, which means what's in it for you, what's in it for me. To the extent that we can get employers to that know who we are. Here's Ananiah right here. His employer, after 24 years.
After 24 years.
24 years. His employer said, "Man, are there any more like you?"
Any more like that?
That's a pop guy. Say pop guy. Pop guy. That's what he was saying. Are there any more pop guys like you?
What do you mean after 24 years?
Of incarceration.
Oh.
He steps out into a professional situation, and his employer is asking him, man, Is there any more like you? Look who done peeked this little head in here, Mr. Dion. Come on in here, boy.
Mr. Harris.
Take your hat off. Give Dion Harris a big hand. Well, it's good to see you. But so you know, we're gonna talk with you here a little bit in the next days about, you know, maybe seeing if you accept this and, you know, continue, you know, your work and stuff like this here. I'm gonna talk to your mom about it. So we on the same page. This and that. Give him another big hand. Here go Dion Harris. He's been missing in action, y'all, but he's working. Give us a quick report. Pull that out your ears, son, when you're in the group. And give us a quick update on Dion Harris.
I'm still doing good. Tomorrow I move in my own one-bedroom apartment tomorrow and stuff.
Give him a hand.
I'm gonna go put my down payment on my car and everything.
What?
So,
Boy, you got some money?
yeah. You know, when you're making $100 a day, man, you know you can...
Give him a big hand. So, do you have driver's license?
Yeah, I got my license taken care of. I gave him $800 on the $1,500 that I owed him.
Right. Get you some insurance.
I am.
Yeah, get everything laid out. Man, that's a good praise report right there. And so, we just jumped kind of like right into it. I'm going to take a step back, and if you don't mind, and have somebody, matter of fact, I'm going to have Evan read the Acts of Faith.
Want me to do it?
Yes. Your name is Evan, man.
Yes. I feel like I should introduce myself.
Right.
My name's Evan. I'm a journalist at Minnesota Public Radio. I spent some time with the Pops and the group. And taking a lot of pictures in this one before.
Right.
I'm here tonight.
He's a pop guy.
Yeah,
Pop guy on 3. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead.
I've never been incarcerated, but I'm here to listen to you all, get some ideas about what stories need to be told, and yeah, nothing. I'm not recording tonight or anything. This is off the record for me. Just here to observe and listen to you.
Yeah.
I'll read this. Blow it up. March 12th. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Matthew 26:41. There are many times in life when we want to know we should do, may even know what or how to do, but we don't. At these times, we are relying on the body. We must realize that the body cannot move without the spirit. The spirit is the force behind all motion. No matter what situations we face in this world, the spirit is always with us. That presence is always guiding, protecting, loving us to ensure that we do the best. The love of the spirit will inspire us and never abandon our needs. The spirit brings divine knowing and order so that we can express strength, peace, and power in every situation. When we are fearful or feeling alone, we can turn within and affirm the love of spirit. We need never to rely on the physical body alone, for we are always in the mighty presence of the spirit.
Ooh.
Closer than breath, nearer than the arms and feet, the spirit will move the body when we ask and obey.
Ooh, that's good. Come on, give him some love. That was good. Who wants to take that?
I do.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't mean to get biblical or nothing like this,
come sit down here.
but it said that presence is always guiding, protecting, loving us to ensure that we do our best.
Me, ensure that I.
And the thing that I like is Jesus sit there and told them, I'm going back to the Father. So for me to go back to the Father, He's going to send me a helper, a counselor. He's going to guide you. He's going to tell you things and remember you things. And I feel a lot of times that a few years ago, I just really came into the understanding where Jesus said, I'm interceding to the Father for them, send you a spirit. But how many times do we say, Spirit, help me, Spirit, guide me? He's part of the Trinity, but how many of us ever call on Him? He's got to be important. He's got to be. So I'm come to find out that if I just sit back and listen and build up that spirit, that's the way that I know that I'm fighting this flesh. And that's how come I'm going to keep winning, because my spirit is strong enough to fight this flesh.
Wow, that's good. Give him some love. Somebody else.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
When I got the treatment, I said about three sentences, and my therapist was like, I'm going to have you work on pride and your ego. And I couldn't understand why things weren't clicking for me, like spiritually, but it was because I had more ego than I had spirit. And you know, the ego and the spirit can't really exist in the same vessel. Somebody's gonna have to submit, you know, and I didn't want to let go of that ego at all. But it wasn't until I started working on my pride and my ego and realized I could still be confident without having the ego, that allowed my spirit to mature. You know what I'm saying? And it's really, how many people do we know that's sitting in jail right now for behind pride? That's dead behind pride. Or ego. And I thank God that He delivered me from
Yes, sir.
and now I can see the fruits of being spiritually mature. You know what I'm saying? Versus that ego, just the projection, just the hollering and just not really saying nothing, posing. It's really from within. You know what I'm saying? So I thank God for that.
Yeah. Give a little hand, man. That's beautiful. Mr. Woody just walked in and give Woody a hand. Yeah, look at that. Woody, we'll give you the, just so you can read this and catch it. Woody is one of the co-facilitators at the Rush City facility with me. Been there for 10 or 12 years, I don't know how long. And he also is a chemical health professional and helps us get ourselves in treatment and other things when we need it. So we love him and appreciate him. And matter of fact, Nate, did you just graduate from treatment?
No, I'm on the 4th.
You on the 4th?
Yep.
Of this next month?
Yep, April 4th.
Yeah. So,
But I'm keeping an eye on Woodrow, don't worry.
keep an eye on it. All right. Will, you got anything? Anybody else? Will, you got something? What you want? Anybody got something?
Yeah, I had something.
Go ahead, son.
You know me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So when I was hearing it, I was thinking about the fact that, you know, everything in this world exists in tubes. You know, you got the positive, negative charge, you got up, down, you got in, out, you know, and you got spirit, flesh. So you cannot have one without the other. That's just not the nature of our reality. And so then I got to thinking about how sometimes, you know, when I was younger and now how you would hear this voice on the inside saying, you know, don't do this, don't turn that way, don't go down that street. Here we call it the bar as well. But it says don't do something basically because it knows, because it's intimately in tune, you know, with the spirit, because it is spirit. It knows, you know, what's on the other side of that, but it won't force us. It's not going to gangster us into going left. It's not going to gangster us into going right. It won't force us, but it's going to warn us. And so as we was reading, I had to reread it because the way my mind works, I need to like read over something like 3-4 times to really understand it, and then it hit me, you know, exactly where this was resonating inside of me, and it just reminded me of what we call that still small voice, that spiritual component inside of us, that if we just listen to it, you know, it will always lead us right. It just will, because that's the nature of it. The nature of it is good.
That's right.
And the opposite is everything else. You know, the nature of the flesh, you know, is the opposite of the nature of the spirit. And so that's just what came to my mind when I was hearing that.
That was those are profound points, man. I like how you expressed that. You know, it felt real clean to me. You know, so clean that you just said. Everybody can work with it. Somebody else go.
Well, you know, for me, it began for me.
Say your name, Will.
I'm sorry, Willie. It began for me when I gained knowledge of self. And the reason why, you know, I had to do that first, because the spirit we're talking about, I think, is the spirit of truth. And, you know, there's no way I could have been aligned with that being something or someone that I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay? So once I learned who I was, right, then I became aligned with that spirit, right? And then, you know, from that point, my actions just produced progress for me. Just, you know, just things just kept happening for me. Good things. Because I submitted to righteousness.
Right.
Right? So that the spirit in me can be nurtured. Okay, so I can see things a little bit more clearly as they relate to what I'm supposed to be doing with my life.
Right.
You know, and following the proper voice. So, you know, I think it begins with knowledge of self. You have to know who you are, you know, for, you know, to be able to walk in truth, to, you know, to be able to listen to that spirit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would like to add, just to be comfortable walking. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
You know yourself. You know, I just had to just add that in there, just kind
Yes,
of
sir.
a little bit more clarification, because I know exactly what he was saying.
Yeah.
Just to be comfortable with yourself. You know yourself. Once you know yourself, you get comfortable with yourself, and you begin to trust your decision making.
But, and you know, that was good, and what Will said that struck me was this whole notion of submitting to righteousness. Somebody say submit to righteousness.
Righteousness.
Yeah, I love how that lays over the top of what we're talking about. You know, because, you know, righteousness has its own voice. And whether or not we listen is germane to whether or not we can quiet the other voices. That's what Tierre was talking about. Not being able to quiet that other voice well enough to hear that voice of righteousness. That's powerful. Doug, what you got? Anything?
Sure.
Go ahead.
When you say that, when I was younger, I had some issues with the church, and for many, many years, I had no dealings with God or anything that had to do with the church. And maybe 10 years ago, you want to call it born again, I gradually came to the point where I started knowing myself better, and I know in my heart when I do right and wrong. I know when I do, and I firmly believe, for me anyway, that the Spirit is my conscience.
Wow. Doug, that's excellent. Give Doug some love right there. Okay, wait a minute. Let's hear from Justin. He's the youngest member of the group. Justin, what you got?
I was just thinking about all the stuff, the bad decisions I made, you know. I always got my ego, you know, and my pride every time. It even got so bad that I didn't want to be a father to my daughter the right way, because I was so worried about proving myself or what somebody else was going to think. So I just really had to humble down and stop listening to the inner voice in my head, the negative stuff and the positive stuff. That's the only thing I got out of it.
Oh, that's a lot. So his daughter's birthday is tomorrow. She's going to be
Thursday.
Thursday. She's going to be 6. And he's acknowledging. You get it? He's acknowledging she exists. She's mine. And I want to celebrate her 6th year on earth. And that's what he's saying, is that shows this growth where she existed, but he didn't have time. But now he has the most important commodity on the face of the earth, which is time. And now you're ready to spend. We say time is the
real money.
Y'all didn't say that too loud.
We say money. Real money.
But watch this. Yeah, you know what? And I met his daughter. And man, I don't know how this boy did this, but this girl is his spitting image. I mean, if I was the judge and he came to the courtroom talking about this child wasn't his,
No doubt.
I would send them to the penitentiary myself. So, you're lying. Next game. That's how much she looked like. That's how she looked like. So that was a good comment from you that somehow this discussion you were able to extrapolate out of it the significance for you and yours.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very powerful, man. That was a mature way of managing that information. Patrick, what you got? Oh, the doctor's in the house. Come on in, Doc. Oh no, this is my wife right here. This is my little wife. Oh, there you go, right there. That's Miss Liz right there. You're gonna have him. He's a pop guy.
To the bathroom.
So we ain't gonna worry about that right now. We just sit down. We ain't here, so we don't mess with you. We ain't here. We don't mess with you. Hey, son, come on in, come on in. I heard you. Sit right here for a minute.
Here, sister, you can sit here.
Here's Mosai's here. I don't know if he just got here and I'm giving my hand. He's so late. So late. I'm glad to have him anyway. Listen to him fussing. You just don't understand. I got to deal with traffic. You know? I just got off of work. You know, I'm like, man, hush, boy. I'm thankful. You're thankful. There you go. Patrick, it's on you.
My name is
What you looking out there for?
One of the things that, you know, I know that the spirit, you know, for me is everything. And everybody's experienced it in a different way. For me, I was at a point in my life where my diabetes was really getting the best of me. But it was a test of what do I want to put my faith in, what do I want to put my time into, what do I want to do? Because I was walking the line. I had one foot over here in spirituality, what I was believing to be spirituality, and I had the other foot in the game. And I'm just going to speak in my terms. God was trying to show me that you can't do both. Forget what you heard, forget what somebody told you. He was letting me know, boy, you can't do both. So you either gonna roll with me, you're gonna find out it's gonna be hard to roll without. I don't know, you know, it was, you know, I had got to the point to where my life was dependent on somebody else being able to respond to me in time. There was times when I was in Lino that the ambulance had to come in there like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Facility always had to be shut down. I mean, so many of the people in the institution was mad at me because they couldn't go nowhere. They're like, oh, none, hey, well, we can't take you nowhere.
Right.
So, you know, I really had to get it. I really had to get it together. And, you know, it was more than a learning lesson. It was a spiritual awakening for me. And, you know, I denounced being, you know, all my gang ties because of the simple fact that what I had came to believe and trust in God, that there's nothing or anybody that I need but Him to be able to have my back.
That's good. That's good.
And slowly but surely I started regaining everything, health, my, you know, consciousness of, you know, knowing what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it, because it had just got out of control. I mean, even the warden, you know, had came and spoke to me. He was like, is there anything that we can do for you? You know, because I had became a liability. You know, the nursing staff had told me this point blank, you know, they feel like you're a liability. You know, so it was the fact of just me learning and experiencing that if you're gonna do something and it helps you in every way, why not jump in with both feet instead of sticking the toe in and trying to see, you know,
if the water's cold,
you know, what you can get out of it and when you can get it out of it.
Give him some love right there. Watch this. I just want to show you something though, how this conversation has evolved from the reading, right? When it's kind of now evolved all the way here to life and death. And that in the case of life and death, Patrick is saying I was confronted spiritually with the decision about who I was and if I wanted to live or die. You get it? And to that extent, man, I'm glad you chose life. Give him some love. And I'll bring little Patrick in. Come here, son. I want everybody to see you because this is Pat's son. Yeah. Look at him. You know them Negroes that got no hair between them. You know what I love about? I just want to show you something. Because Lil Pat been struggling too, you know what I mean, and trying to get on the good foot. Say the good foot. The good foot. I just want to show you something. Just holler out in years. How many years you did?
17.
24.
19.
13.
10 and 9.
Years? Oh, 24.
19.
8.
Okay, wait a minute, stop right there. If I didn't get to you, that's all right.
2 minutes.
That's over 150 years right there. Do you think we need you to do even one more day?
That's why I got some good news, though.
What's the good news?
For the first time in my life since I was 16 years old, I'm on parole. I'm on free now.
Look here, on 3, I want you to say this. Get off and stay off. 1, 2, 3.
Get off and stay off.
Say it again.
Get off and stay off.
Say it one more time.
Get off and stay off.
Yeah. It's not just getting off. You got to stay off.
That's right.
Wow. Okay, then somebody's saying the commissioner's here. Is that true? If he is, just bring him on in. I'm just waiting to say everybody's out there. Huh?
They say he ain't out.
Okay. Huh? You gotta go?
No, he won't yet, but I'm gonna let him get this.
No, you ain't gotta let them. Ain't let nobody. When nobody is here, they can't have no spot. I've been sharing this in the group with I believe Rush City. I've been doing something with the comment, and then I'm gonna go to my wife real quick, if you don't mind. Say I am somebody. I want you to think about it again. Say I am somebody. Now watch this. This is what we've been doing in Russ. You know, it was really Jesse Jackson who coined that during the Operation Push days up there on 79th Street, right? Yeah. So he could head this way. Watch this. Say I am somebody. This was a part of his, I think it was the 1988 presidential campaign. And he won a couple of states in delegates like South Carolina, you know, this I can't remember where. Okay, son, I got it. But watch this. I am somebody used to always to me sound like one comment. Listen. But I realized just about a year ago, the I amness is that part of you which is God created. Say I am. Yeah, well see, the I amness, he already blew in you.
Right.
Watch this carefully.
That's right.
Say the I am this.
I am this.
That was the gift. Say the gift.
The gift.
Yeah, but the somebodyness, that part is up to you.
Yeah, come on now.
And so see, this is how, wait a minute, watch this. This is how you have been acting like a nobody.
Yes, sir.
Even though you were blessed with the gift of I am.
Yes, sir.
And you had the gift the whole time, Dion, the gift of I am, but you acting like nobody. And my point to you is on tonight, none of us have the right to play with our somebodyness. Now watch this carefully. And this has happened with many men who are in this room, that your I am and your somebody have come together into one thing. I don't hear nobody. I don't hear nobody. Somebody. So this is what we're talking about with Lil Patrick here. He's standing in his I amness, but do you know that you are somebody? That goes back to Will's point about knowing who you are in the first place.
Oh, come on now.
That's good.
And this is the evolution of the conversation in the acts of faith. So he's out here. Everybody, well, come on, bring him on in. Mike, where you going?
To the restaurant.
People y'all like getting all nervous here. Come on
This
in,
is where it's at, I hear.
Sophia, this is my wife, Dr. Brenda Price. Nice shoe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is my wife, Dr. Brenda Price. Have a sit down. You just came in at a good time, and I know you had a busy day with all these life review hearings and all of these things that you got going on. We had one of our lifelong sons go up for review today, Ross and so I see him on Thursday and figure out how this thing went down. This is Commissioner Schnell. Is it Paul? Paul Schnell.
Yep.
I maybe met you once before. Didn't you? Weren't you the spokesperson for Minneapolis?
St. Paul.
St. Paul? Maybe it was in
St. Paul
that area. Who was the chief at that time?
Yeah, Chief Finney was there when I first got appointed to that role.
Right. And so we're glad to have you. And I just want to say to you, neither my wife or I formally invited the commissioner. He's certainly welcome. But it's the leadership from inside this room. Somebody cut that phone off. The leadership from inside this room that made the invitation on our behalf. And we're so proud of you for doing it and glad to have him. Give him a hand. So, let me just give you a quick background, and we're going to throw it to you, and then we'll open it up in some ways. My wife and I are the founders of this organization, and we are how old? 10, maybe? 14 years old, and we were even doing the work inside prisons prior to forming our nonprofit. So I worked for Hennepin County, y'all all know this, but I worked for Hennepin County for 17 or 18 years. As a part of that, there was the African American Men Project, and as a part of that, I went into Furbo, began to do training. My wife had written a book. We sat down at the kitchen table and decided to use the book to create a curriculum, and that was in 2004 or 5. We've been at it ever since. So just the background piece. We moved here. We were in another location in Robbinsdale is where we started, and we had a smaller space, and then we've been here in this space for maybe 8 years or something like that. So that's the short story about how we got here. And then we got a couple of guys that I want you to hear, just share a bit about their experience. Eric Washington and Willie Lloyd right here. If you don't mind, just come on in here and just share quickly with the commissioner and his assistant, whose name is
Sophia.
Miss Sophia. Give Miss Sophia a hand too. Pull off your hand. Oh, yeah. And so I'm gonna have Will and Eric just share a little briefly about Pop, what Pop was for you inside and out, and then we'll go, the commissioner, over to you. Is that all right?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Oh man, Pop was Power People Leadership. I'm so glad I took that in prison because it helped.
What year was it?
2011, because as soon as I graduated, I left. And I remember him telling me, this stuck with me to this day, that he said people that come to, because he told me about the group, I learned about this group in there, so I was looking forward to coming, and he told me the people that come to Pop stay out of prison. That's why I'm coming to this. And this has been in 2011 when I was released. So I speak on the Power People Leadership Institute all the time. Sometimes I bring guys, because I mentor guys in the federal reentry program. So I bring them, any chance I get that, I said, you want to check something real out, this is it. You know what I mean? Because we can apply what we learn here to our life out there, and what we're learning is real stuff for me. So I'm here,
Give Eric some love.
Thank you.
Will, what you got?
Yeah, I'm Willie, and I was incarcerated for 24 years. Came home in 2011. Met Pops back in, I think it was 2007. And so I've been, out and popping with him, for, around almost 8 years now. And, POP was used for me. It affirmed a way of life that I wanted to live, that I know I could live, but it became a roadmap for me in terms of how to live it. Now I teach at Summit Academy, where I've been working now for
6 years?
No,
7?
Around 7 years. Yes, 7 years and some change. Just out here, just doing well.
That's give them a good life.
Give them a good life.
That's awesome,
Eli, we met the other day. It's not too much that I can add to what they said. When I first got to POP, I ran into Willie Lloyd, who was mentoring me when I was in Stillwater. So it aligns to everything you were saying. The experience you had with me was the experience I had with Willie. So I just passed it forward. But when I got to Faribault, honestly, I was really frustrated because I had a murder conviction. I wasn't able to take college classes, and because I had 8 years when I got there, I wasn't able to take anger management, or I wasn't able to take any of the programming because they sorted it by who was closest to release. And so with nearly a decade to go, I was going to always be way at the bottom. And as new guys were moving into the facility, I was always like ranking lower and lower and lower. And so I couldn't take any more college classes, and I couldn't take anger management with the murder conviction, mind you. So I couldn't do anything. And I mean, I'm just saying. And so,
that's real though.
And so POP, when I finally learned, I had already read the Purple Book. I didn't know, anything about POP when I read the Purple Book, because I read the Purple Book in Stillwater. So then I got to Faribault, and when I found out I could get in the program, right? I mean, because here's an example. I'm sitting here minding my business watching TV, right? And on the bottom of the ticker scrolls across, don't sign up for higher ed classes if you have a murder conviction. And I'm like, man, I'm just trying to watch Shrek. Like seriously though. And so, finally, when I found out there was a program that I could go into, and then I went in, I didn't expect what we got. So then I went in there and it was just like oxygen. It was like, find something finally, and I stayed with it ever since then. We're coming up on a decade.
Sure.
I became a student teacher. I became one of the lead student teachers. everything, at every single juncture, every point that I've been out here, no matter if it is applying for the job with ACLU, no matter if it is becoming one of the Josie R. Johnson Fellows with the African American Leadership Forum, every last single thing that I've done, my first car, my first living space, you know, POP and Pops have touched every last single. I mean, you probably just about tired of me asking for letters of recommendation. I'll be asking for another one soon. And so, like, the space that we have created, this is why I was like, you know, for what's going on in Stillwater and other places, this is the answer. The energy and and what we have been able to build and what we stand upon is so powerful and so strong. Nothing replaces it. And so many of us, it's been a safety net that's taught us so many times as we've been out here. And so I'm pretty grateful. I hate that me and a nigga, we're gonna have to take off. We got a bunch of people waiting on us, but I'm glad that I had the opportunity just to, you know, speak love over what has given me life for well over a decade.
Slowly, this is all organic. We didn't intend to somehow become, we're the largest reentry group in the state of Minnesota. We didn't intend that, but through consistency and just, you know, stick to it every day and that whole thing, it just has become that. So organically, we have become that. So all the men you see here and women are people who have, you know, we engaged in prison, but then built relationships with. We ended up buying our first house out of self-defense. We had a guy whose PO wanted to violate him because this was back before Obama, and the economy was so bad. He lost his job, didn't do anything wrong, couldn't pay his rent. And that's an automatic violation. The landlord just would call the PO, and the PO would evict and reincarcerate. And we said, no. Menez is his name. Menez Williams. We said, no, we'll hire him here. We have no money to do it. We're gonna hire him here and we'll pay his back rent because the guy was doing so good. And the PO still said that. And we have not seen Menez. That was back in 07. We have not seen him. And so out of self-defense, we purchased a home so that we could, you know, we had something to leverage X against. That became Pop 1. And then ultimately here a couple years back, 3 years back, we got the house across the street. And Pop 2, this is where he lived at. And so we can house guys, we can only hold 10, but we're moving. So our goal is now we understand a little bit better about how to do housing and how to make this thing work as a continuum of care. And within the context of that thinking, we want to build out, you get it, as the need has arisen inside of this room. We understand a little bit more about what we need to do relevant to politically and socially in terms of housing and that kind of thing, and then also even emotionally. You know, another area we want to grow in is in mental health. We want to make sure that we're able to contract with a mental health provider so that we can touch all the bases. Having said those quick things, I want to introduce you to my wife, my partner, my Loba, and I know your son. Honey, what would you share that we did? Anything with the commission?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming.
I'm honored.
Right? Thanks for, we've been checking you out. You know, so we needed to know. I mean, this is not just a job for us. This is a life's work. It's not just about business for us, it's about lives. And so this is a mission-driven, vision-driven work. And so it was critical for us when a new commissioner was appointed that we kept a really close eye on you, because Department of Corrections to us is a partner. We do our work together, and we cannot do our work separate from GOC. And so for us, you know, we had to see who was coming into the family. So we were checking you out. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Right? You know, you gotta have a little family talk, right? And so the other day I saw you on public TV, you know, upstairs in the Capitol, and you were talking, and I said to my husband was at Rhino or Rush or Faribault, you know, in one of the facilities, and I said, you know what, sweetheart, I think that he actually has a heart for people. Now that's critical to us, because that is what drives us. We actually love our podcast.
That's right.
And they know we love them.
That's right.
So we're, you know, they know that if they have nowhere else to go, they can call us.
That's right.
This is a place. We are family. You know, they come to us, they can call us, they call us in the middle of the night. We're going to show up at the courtroom. We're going to show up at Pookie's house. We're going to show up. You see what I mean?
You know that girl live over there.
So, you know, so this isn't just a form and check off the, you know, the little case management, woo stuff. You know, this is really about how we together invest in the lives of our community. And for us, you are a part of our partnership in that. So I was thrilled to hear that our family had invited you to our family.
That's right.
So welcome. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
So first of all, I gotta say this is just a tad bit overwhelming, in a good way, in a really good way. One of the things that struck me about this is, it's been, 10 weeks or whatever it is since this started, and I have been learning so much. It's been a tad bit overwhelming, but one of the things that I've been so incredibly touched by, moved by, and I've come to really realize is the power of people in this room. And I just go to you, Willie, Mr. Lord. I think, you know, when I hear about the story of the influence that you've had on people, and then hear about the way that gets passed, right? That it is about the building of this kind of community that's going to make a difference, and I want to be a part of that. I want our department to be a part of that in whatever way we can, because I can't tell you the number of times I've had conversations, whether it's been in my visits at the facilities or in even in some of these parole hearings on the life review stuff, where POP doesn't come up.
Right.
And I think it speaks to the incredible and powerful influence of what happens with deep connection between people, and that's really what this is about. I would just say this, that I'm part here to learn, and I would really like to be not a stranger to even these meetings, but I also don't want to be the celebrity. I want to be a part of it, right? I don't want to be here because I'm a commissioner. I want to be here because I want to have a connection. I want to be supportive. I want to make a difference. The thing that we've been talking about with leadership and with everybody in the DOC, ultimately the goal is really what we're about, is what we need to be about at the Department of Corrections, is the creation of successful experiences for other people, which is really what you all are doing. That's what communities do. And so how do we do that? We do that at some level by expecting much of each other, at least expecting us to be able to live up to our capabilities, to bring our best forward, right? And at the same time, a willingness to provide support to the nth degree. Because for most of us, the people that we respect and admire are the people, in fact, that do expect us to live up to our abilities, and at the same time would have gone to the wall to help us succeed. And that really becomes the challenge, and that's what I hear from people here. That's what I hear in the confines of these relationships, and it is in relationships that we can expect people and call people to be their best, and so that really is a part of our conversation, and how do we do that? We do that really through deep levels and high levels of engagement with each other, and that means as an organization, as an entity, we do that with organizations like this in the broadest sense. It means that we engage people in the political process, in conversations, in the challenging issues that we face, and there's many. I mean, you all know that. And what I'm here to do tonight, probably more than anything, is to want to ask, and I'm grateful to have been invited to be a part of this family, as you describe it.
Right.
But I also am here to ask for your help, because I don't know the answers to all the problems. I just don't. And many of you in this room are informed by real life experiences that I've never had. And the only way that I can ever get to a place where we can begin to gain depth of understanding around that, and to find solutions to really challenging problems, is by engaging with and connecting with you to help inform me and the system in terms of how we do a better job on people.
We need to hurry up and indoctrinate him as a pop guy, like right now.
We can start that by, I think my wife is going to give them a book, and so that's Eric's process. I like what he's sharing, and so partially, what I'd like to share is what we do is personal development and leadership. So we start with the person. What does it mean to be a human? We just unpack that whole dynamic of personhood. And in that unpacking, it ultimately uncovers a whole lot of other things that the individual is working on without us having to name it, but rather he names it or she names it inside of their own selves as they're rediscovering personhood. On the other side of that discovery, natural things come alive. And it's that leadership quality that comes alive, leading from the front or the rear, that come alive and that are alive in this room. Many of the men who are in this room who we first met in prison are in leadership positions around the community that make what I just said true. Now, what we've always thought about was creating kind of a council where we could meet with you all in genuine, authentic, targeted dialogue that assist each other in accomplishing our goals. Let me give you one idea. Because of the leadership that's here. We struggle here, and we've struggled in the past with technical violations. One of the things that the prisons are struggling with right now is safety and the whole dynamic, real or perceived, of safety, what that means. And we teach in the class, we want everybody to get home safe, everybody. Right? So we've made that a part of our class, right? And we incorporate COs and all of that into the class, so they understand what is at our core operating function. Having said that, though, we know that technical violations is a critical piece. It's the Achilles heel of the larger system that's farmed out to counties to manage. And in that farming, the relationship or the vision that's up here doesn't always get communicated in these counties. And so that's the part that we're struggling with. And we have lost, the last time we ran our numbers, for every man or woman who comes to POP and stays 34 weeks in group, only one person has ever gone back with a new case who has stayed here for 34 weeks. right? Now, there's some best practices junk that will tell you that that change has to happen within the context of X number of hours, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I'll cite that just as an afterthought. Doesn't really have a lot to do with what we're talking about. Because what we're talking about is being all in. Say all in. All in. One thing about my wife and I that you know is true is we are all in. Yes. Say all in. All in. This is what we need from you all is to figure out how we can be all in this thing together in a way around relationship. Now, the strange piece of it is technical violations also break down along racial lines. We can do 3 things at one time. Here are the 3 things. We can reduce prison population by not re-incarcerating technical violators. We would also be responding vicariously to the racial issue, and we would also be building the will and the hope in men that a second chance really meant something. Because there are so many guys that we know that the second chance, because they keep going back on technical violations over and over and over and are locked into these personality conflicts at the county level. And those conflicts are vexing all of us. Now I could give another example, but I'll stop there. That's enough. But here's an area where I think that we could all work together. And in things that you can't say, we can. And in things that we can't say, you all can. Right. And to the extent that we can work together to accomplish the larger goal, staying in our respective lanes, I think to that extent we can make progress under this administration. Now I'll give you an example of this, and I'm just being honest. You know, everybody in here knows, you know, the old administration's been here, you know, all of this and that, and we honored them for their role in this, that, and the other. But it took them a while, listen, for them to be able to truly appreciate who we were. We had to prove something, even though we came behind them. You get it? But I think that if we can get a quicker understanding of where the rubber meets the road, you understand, not toward the end of the run, then we can make some headway together that gets all of us what we need. And what is that? A safer Minnesota. POP right here, this little organization, has helped to make Minnesota a safer place. I am 100% convinced that. Because many of the men who we train are in Duluth, they're in Rochester, you know, they're in Owatonna, they're all over, and they're pop guys just the same. Right. And so we have had an impact. We've had an impact, and I'll say this one more thing and stop. We've had an impact because we are all in and because we have been consistent. Consistency has granted us an operational accord. It's that we are working under. If we can build a partnership that's real, we can grow this thing out to the extent that partnership is doable. I'll stop there.
So one of the things I don't want to do is get too far ahead here, but one of the conversations that we do is exactly in those lines. Exactly. In fact, one of the things that's going to happen very soon, and we talked a little bit about this, right? When I met with a small group of some of the people who invited us here, is that we want to, the governor wants to, I want to, I think, make some announcements around some bold goals. And those bold goals really relate to the very things that you're talking about. We have to do a better job of managing people in the community, and the community needs to be the ones who can help support and address some of the issues people may have. And I think really ultimately we need to own responsibility for the fact that the VOC does conduct the hearings and a lot of the restructuring stuff that happens. And yet it's a complex range of issues that we ultimately are trying to address in terms of How do we make sure that if somebody has a significant relapse, how do we make sure that they get the resources in the community, as opposed to sending them back to prison where they're going to get nothing in the 60 days or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
That restructure is that they're being sent back. So we want to what the governor has asked and what there will be, and I think to your point, this group can, and my commitment to you, will play a significant role in that process, and that's in fact we've been just looking to kind of get the time to make the announcement and bring people to the table. But and one of the conversations that I wanted to have with this group is that very ask, is that again we know that the DOC as an institution, as an organization, isn't going to bring about the kind of changes in people and in our system without the incredible influence and power of the people that sit around even this table. It has to happen. And that's just the bottom line. And we know that. And I think that the partnership that you spoke of earlier is essential. But we wanted to think differently. One of the things that the governor asked when he asked me to do this job, and I still can't believe he did in some respects, because why would he ask me of all people? But I think the bottom line is that I think he said we want to be bold. This is the time to be bold. And I think this is the time to try to make sure that we create and build every kind of partnership that we can create that ultimately is going to create a safer Minnesota, that is going to make it better even for those people, and I think especially for these people that have been, I think, inequitably impacted by policies. Folks of color, many of you in this room have been. We know that we've been known for a long time that racial disparities are profound in the criminal justice system. And we have to own that. We have to create policies and mechanisms that ultimately that address those inequities.
Well, I appreciate that. And, clearly this is an appointed position, and he obviously saw something in you and your work experience that caused him to tap you for the job. And so I just want to be real honest with you. And I understand corrections is a hard job. And there are some very hard issues that need to be addressed. And politically, people are sometimes on, different sides of that. But I think overall safety, public safety, and the dialogue about safety is something that brings about relationships on both sides of the aisle. And so I would just ask you all to think about sitting down with us again in another setting, and then I would maybe tap a few of the guys who are here who are strong in their leadership potential, who could sit on this type of a panel or board that would give us a mechanism under with which to propose political change and process. Does that make sense?
Yes, and my answer to you is, to use your words, I'm all in.
There you go. I love that. I want to say this as a caveat to this conversation, but to everybody in the room. I've been paying close attention to this also, nationally. And those individuals, entities that have been in privatization of prisons are reshuffling their deck. And what they're doing is seeing now the political shift in the First Step Act nationally, the political shift in starting to let some of these folks go. And so my read is properties are being bought up and other things are taking place for this set of people to do business around us the way they've done business in the past. Am I being clear here?
Yes, sir.
And to that extent, I would want to be create this buyer beware of that process, which never took off so well in Minnesota, but the political will follow the money, and what we don't want is for some foolishness to get in the way of the opportunity to create change and progress. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think you're really, just to be clear, I think you're speaking about we have to invest in local programs that are ultimately going to really touch and build community. Absolutely. That's I hear it loud and clear.
That's good. That's good.
Just to explain, so I want to talk about Safia because she's not. She plays a critical role. She's government relations for the DOC. She came. I was fortunate to be able to convince her to come to this work and is a big helpful. She's really one of the vehicles that, from a policy standpoint, in the DOC and some of these the kinds of things that we're talking about doing and announcing. She's working with the governor's office policy team, and so there's a really strong connection. And then I'm working at the commissioner level with the cabinet members to really try and talk about how do we mobilize the resources of state housing and all those types of things from a state standpoint to kind of meet the needs of folks who are coming out of our facilities or trying to stay out of our facilities, or on probation or whatever it may be. So we're really trying to work at that. But Safia plays a really key role on the legislative side and monitoring that stuff. So I wanted her to be here. She met with us when some of the folks from here came and met with us over at the DOC, and she's a really, from my standpoint, a key player for me because she really has got her feet in all of that policy work. So, but we're honored to kind of have the opportunity to come over, and again we are committed to. Deepened partnership has been the core of an engagement has been the conversation we need to do, and I think this is one of the ways to begin that and bring people to the table.
But did you want to share anything?
I think I'm just, I've been here about 5 weeks now, and I would say I'm not surprised.
I have seniority over her
yes,
by a couple
weeks. And I'm not surprised by, but I'm certainly kind of overwhelmed by the brilliance in a lot of these rooms that I've been in. And I come from community organizing myself around other issues. And I think, kind of applying some of those concepts to the policy work here, so in some of what you mentioned about having some sort of an advisory council. I mean, not just on a single issue, but the breadth of issues that the DOC faces, and having people who have those lived experiences guide us through this process is absolutely critical. I think the challenge in these first few weeks really has been to do the work as that it needs to be done right now, and then also think about what we need to do in the coming weeks and months and years to establish and institutionalize some of these processes, so we're not just thinking of an idea and running with it, but it's being guided. I mean, I think people have solutions already, right? I mean, communities have the solutions. They're here, they're informed, they're there, and I think we really need to kind of elevate those voices and those ideas and create pathways for them to become successful, and that's what we really see as our goal.
Legislative pathways.
And otherwise, I would say legislative. I think policy goes beyond legislation, in many ways. So I think legislative, yes, it's very key. But I think, in my work, I've learned that all the solutions don't come from the Capitol. I mean, they come from these rooms, and they come a lot of times from not the Capitol. They come from within the agency. So what are our internal policies? I mean, I think you mentioned. We have communities doing, the supervision, community supervision happening, right? And we kind of contract that out with certain counties, some as DOC, but still, the decision to violate someone on a technicality is made within our office, within DOC, within the hearing and release unit. And I think there are key ways to look at policies within the DOC, both, again, legislative and non-legislative, and I think that's what we're interested in from the commissioner, and I've worked with him for many, many years. We worked together before I came here. And I said, I think that's been the key as we look at the breadth of issues, and our team is really focused on looking at the breadth of issues and not really siloing ourselves into one or another.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you on board. Give her a little hand. we won't keep you all night, but let's take a few questions along the lines that we were talking about now. Targeted questions from who got one?
Anything. We're open to our conversation.
Will, you got one?
Well, I got more of it.
Yeah.
Almost a question more. Well, about the technicality issue. You know, when we are violated for something that a citizen can't go to prison for, it attacks and undermines our citizenship. Because it calls us to question, are we equal or not to other citizens, right? Now, in pop, our birthright is affirmed, right? We are valuable, lovable, powerful, and important,
yes, sir.
Right? This sits at the core of our humanity, right?
Okay.
So when we are violated for being human, meaning not being perfect, right? It attacks that. It attacks that. Now, for us, it don't stop us because we are affirmed here, and we're grounded in who we are, so we march on. Right?
That's right.
But because this is about cultivating leadership, we fight back. Right? We fight for our rights and how we think we should be treated. Right? So this issue about being violated for technicalities is very, very personal to us because it attacks who we are at the core, and it denies our humanity, our citizenship.
That's excellent. That's Esau, go ahead.
I'm with that.
Yeah, my name is Esau. DOC knows me as Esau Strawberry. I guess, what if the technical violation, unaccountability, 10 hours for a sex offender who has not completed treatment, or the commissioner, hearing officers aren't quite sure? The conditional release and sentence release, extended release, two different things. The maximum time my violation could have been held for was 12 days. 44 months later, I was released. Oops, sorry, we made a mistake. Great, I lost everything. Lost my schooling, my apartment, my job, cars. And at one point I was like, I think I just should max out my time and not do conditional release. Just say, I understand it was a mistake, that I told you that it right away. I talked to the hearing officer right away that time out, you can't keep me that long. And he said, oh yeah, you never complete treatment, go back to treatment, go bye. It's like, okay, factory line, assembly, punch your name here, send you down the line. So I wrote habeas corpus. I talked to executive hearing officer, I think Rebecca Holmes. It was like, be quiet, you don't know what you're talking about, everything's right, do your treatment. And I have completed treatment.
Give a hand for that.
You don't care. And I'm currently in aftercare, finishing up at Alpha Human Services. However, I felt that no one heard me, no one cared, and I was the criminal. Okay, true. I committed a sex offense when I was 16 years old. That parole violation was when I was 34 years old. No matter what, you're a sex offender to us. No matter that you don't have any similar or same nothing between times. However, that crime you committed, we will never forget. And when you come through our doors, we will treat you as thus. And so, short of a lawyer, I had to depend on my writing skills, my ability to communicate to executive officers, hearing officers, former Commissioner Tom Roy, judges. Of course, I don't have the lawyer script or the words, but I do have a voice. And that's the only way that I made it through that 44 months, not going crazy, is because I could write my truth. Though it was denied time after time.
I'm gonna stop you right there. Give him a little bit.
But my question is more oversight on individuals coming on the violation. Please stop the assembly line. Just, okay, give us 2 weeks to say, all right, are we absolutely sure Mr. Strawberry is going to treatment for this violation and he is not on conditional release, he's not on a sentence, et cetera, just X's and O's, because it didn't feel that way. It felt like push you right through the system, get you in, get you whatever. So more oversight on individuals who comes to the hearings.
So stop. So two things. First of all, don't it feel good that we have created a space where Esau's truth could hit the table like that?
Oh, no doubt. Right.
Give him some love right there. Second thing is that even though the space is created, you still have to exercise your leadership and get involved in the discussion, which you did. I'm proud of that. Finally, I think your question is, if I can rephrase it, is let's be very mindful about the difference in these individual cases and not be treated as if somehow every one of these cases, SO or whatever, is automatically the same. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's an excellent question, and this thing that he's talking about, I'm coming right to you, is a huge piece. And I'll just say to you in front of everybody, you know, Esau was ready to snap out and was shutting down. And sweetie, I'm so glad that just so happened POP was there and he could reach back out, because after a few classes, you get it, you start coming back alive again. And that encouraged his, this is Isaac calling it, Isaac Brown. Encouraged his writing skills and helped to undergird his continued fight. Let me just close that by saying Esau is one of our fine young men who is in college right now working on his degree. Give him some love. Any comments you want to make?
So I first of all, if we screwed up, and it sounds like we did. I'm sorry for that. I mean, because the system, when we don't do right by people, we need to own that and do what we can to fix it. And, not that you can get.
Right there. Did you hear what he just said?
Yeah.
Did you ever think that you were going to get an apology from the Commissioner of Corrections?
Never.
Come on, give it up. Give it up.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I think you're welcome. And I think to your point, we do have to really be mindful of the fact that, as I think as well you talked about earlier, that this is really about, we're talking about people here and their core humanity, and really, because of that, we need to invest and not just check the box. And again, I think this is the call for us, and we're as a system, we're fallible human beings, and yet at the same time, we have to make sure that we place trust in people who we serve in the system, to say, look, remember, I am a
That's
person.
right. That's right.
So,
That's excellent. We're going to take two more. Richard and
I really want to praise you for coming here. I mean, it's late at night. There's a million other places I'm sure you could be, and you've been asked to be, and you're here. So really, thank you for that.
Right.
And I appreciate what you're saying about working with community agencies. I mean, that's really the missing piece, I feel like, with the DLC. And it's not a knock on the DLC. It just seems like historically, between community corrections, human service agencies, and the DLC, you had this competitive thing where you're constantly talking about, well, we have these numbers, and we have these numbers, and we have these numbers. But if you put all your numbers together, there's not going to be a problem. You know, there's not going to be a problem with violations. There's not going to be a problem with officer safety or community safety, because everyone's going to be working together with a cohesive unit. Instead of you doing your thing, community corrections doing their thing, and then community agencies trying to pick up the pieces and work around, you know. So I just really want to commend you for saying that you want to work with agencies like POP, because the ripple effect, I mean, just look around the room, the ripple effect goes on for days, for states, for countries. I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing that you're here and saying that you want to do this, maybe the right way.
We have, and what I'm asking is that you hold me accountable to that. I mean, because it has to come from the community, right? I think this governor expects that we are here to serve and serve community, and that's the bottom line. And you know, as much as I need your help, I need you to lead up, and that's what this meeting's about, right? You're leading up and part and I can help convene, but your voice is going to be so important to this. So, and I agree, we have been so siloed in terms of how we do what we do, that if we can truly break down some of those systems, just even some of the kinds of walls that exist, we can go along. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
That was great, Rich. And Richard is providing some leadership over at Ujama Place, where Otis Zander, a former warden, who's a good partner to us and a good friend to my wife and I, is the organizer and creator and president over there. Ananiah and then Lil Pat, and then we're gonna let these guys get out of here if that's okay. Go ahead.
My name is Ananiah Israel. I spent approximately 24 years in my life inside prison. I've been out now a little over a year. I've been a part of POP since 2008, so it's been 11 years. And this organization has given me a family. Of course, I was born of a mother, of a father. They were a blood family. But sometimes your mother and your father do not have what it takes to give a child everything it needs to make it. It doesn't have it because they don't have the skills. And I think I could probably say that for some of us here. For sure. And for many of us who are not here. And for many people who you are going to come in contact with and have in prison. They had parents, but the parents didn't have the skills. What POP has done, they've given us these skills. They've given us these signs and symbols, this language that innately creates this strong positive habit. And that's what it did for me. It just created a strong positive habit. So much so that I don't even have to watch what I say anymore because it's just habitually positive.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
And when someone is negative around me, I repel them because I am habitually positive. I too would just like to commend you for coming down here and meeting with us in this organization. And I put my hat in the ring and said, whatever you need from me, better than Israel, just call me and I'm there for you.
You will get a call. I think it's just interesting. A friend of mine always talks about there's family and there's family, and he talks about family with an F and family with a PH. And the family with a PH is the kind of family that we're talking about here. It's the community, right? And oftentimes that oftentimes can be supplemental to that family with an F. But for some people who didn't have that family with an F in a real sort of way, it is this community family that really makes all the difference in the world. So we can do that, and POP obviously has done that to people here, and I've heard that from folks that I've talked to that are in the facility.
So first I want to introduce you to Patrick. This is Big Pat. Pat is Pop Guy. And then this is his son, Little Pat, who is just now announced to us before you got here that he was off
Parole.
Off parole. And everything.
Yeah.
Give him a hand. The next time he comes, I want to register you as a voter. Now you got your rights back. I want to register you right here because we need your vote in what is going to be the most critical election that America has seen in recent history. It's going to be the 2020 election, and we need your voice, and we need you to be involved. Now, having said that, son, what is your question?
Okay. That's crazy that I'm here today, and it all ties in back together. What I'm about to tell y'all, y'all is not going to believe. You were a lieutenant or a sergeant in 2008, November 19th. You testified in my trial. That's what sent me to prison. And today is why I'm just out on parole.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And that's why when you walked in, I asked you.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And the fact that you can come in here today, you climbed up the ladder, just like we climbed coming from corrections to get to this point here now. And now that we can see eye to eye, I want to say that this is the time to break down the communication between COs and parole officers.
Amen.
You can be that bridge, that gap. Now that you've been here, you've been to the point where nobody has crossed that bridge. You can pave the way for everybody behind you. And I just wanted to say, can you break down the communication, form the communication, form the bond, or at least try to.
Let me stop you right there. That was good. Give him some love.
First of all, what I love is that my dad's name was Paul, and so there was Big Paul, and there was Little Paul. So first of all, I struck a chord, but I mean that's the goal, right? We have to come together. We have to. We have to have give people a voice. We have to have the hard conversations. And I want to bring people along. Some people have asked me, why did you come out and talk so much about safety and security in the prison? And that's a fair question. Because obviously we all know from a human needs standpoint, one of the basic human needs that we oftentimes, all of us have, is to feel that sense of safety. We just have to have that.
That's right.
And I think for me, I also want to recognize the fact that if I want to bring people along, right? I want to have that conversation to bridge that gap. People have to feel like I have in their interest, right? Your interest, their interest, the interest of everybody, and how do we bring that together? And this is really one of the key issues. So having these kinds of conversations, I want to be clear that my foot is here in this community, and it's critically important that I'm here, that you allow me to be a part of it, that that we have a connection. And at the same time, I have to be able to reach across to bring people along who have not had that feeling or who haven't had that experience. Because it is only through that sense of community and connection that we can get there. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I just want to correct you on one thing. You need both feet here in order to bring people along.
So here's the thing. I agree. When I say both feet, I think ultimately bringing people together is about having people feel like that there's the opportunity for engagement. If the minute it becomes a sense of I can't engage because they're on the other side.
Sure.
The other side is, I don't know what that is.
Yes.
And we have to get to a point where we see each other's humanity.
Absolutely. And to that point, my wife and I, when we first started, the guards, they treated us like offenders. They weren't used to it. They doubted, all of this. And on today, our relationship with COs and others throughout the system is basically very good. Because we've been consistent and demonstrated that our common interests are so much greater than whatever our smaller differences might be. And I think on that note, we're going to pledge out of here. If you don't mind, we're going to just stand up and everybody just get arm in arm like we always do. And then you guys can talk with the commissioner and his assistant a little bit.
That's all right.
Come on. Sweetie,
We gotta get in here with us. Oh, I gotta stop. Come on.
Yeah, you gotta get in. You gotta get in.
Yeah, get in where you get in.
Everybody gets
Everybody's
in.
in. Step up off that paint. Come on, everybody's in. Step down a little bit. We got everybody. Is everybody? Is everybody here? I want to just mention real quickly the work of Brother Philip Holmes. I saved Phil till last because I want everybody to know how proud we are of you.
Amen.
Yeah,
That's right.
give Philip
God
Pop
is
down.
good,
3, 1, 2, 3. I will. Balance my family values. With my goals. I will. Exercise wisdom. What I choose to eat. Read. And do. I will. Strive to make all relationships. Win-win. No deal. Win-win. No deal. I will. Under every circumstance. Maintain a positive attitude. I will. Enjoy my life. Have a sense of humor. While taking advantage of opportunities. And learning from my misfortune. I will. Act upon circumstances. Rather than have them act upon me. I will. On a daily basis. Be proactive with my goals. I will. Always protect my wisdom. My health. And my happiness. I will. Stay principle-centered. And maintain a positive circle of influence. I will. Daily learn. Commit. And do. I will. Act according to the POP Leadership Institute. Be productive in my community. And my private life. Yeah. Now, while y'all are still holding on, this here to my left, this is Sister Michelle. Sister Michelle is the mother of Jeffrey Young, one of our dynamite pop guys, student teachers who's manages the oldest prison newspaper in the state of Minnesota's history. She is Jeffrey's mother, and then also Linnell Martin, her nephew, pop guy and lifers. These are guys that are very, very important to us, and we build a relationship with them over about 8 or 9 years in Rush City. Both of them will ultimately transfer to Stillwater. We're just getting ready to go into Stillwater for the first time, probably in another month and a half or so. So we want you to be aware of that. Ward Miles is totally on board and a partner to POP, and we can't wait to reconnect with your son. But what I think I want to say most is that what we found out was that she needed a space where she could come and where her feelings would be, justified and heard. And her existence would be, Will, that righteous existence that you talked about. And so, Michelle, I'm so glad that you're here. We love you here.
Yes, we do.
And send our word back to Linnell and Jeffrey that your pop will soon be in Stillwater. Sorry it took us so long.
That's really, really good news.
So listen, let's clean up and let's get on out of here.